FYF Sportsman, it's Lamont. We back with another podcast episode, man. Another episode, man. Today is it's a crazy day. I'm dealing with a lot of different emotions coming from Laker haters, LeBron fans, LeBron haters. It's just all over the place today. We're going to touch on all that today. We got a lot of topics to touch on today. Before we get into all of that, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to the video if you have not done so already. You know, we've been starting our live debates. The live debates have been crazy. You know, the turnout for the live debates have been far better than I actually imagined. We've been getting a lot of people wanting to chime in. And what I appreciate most about our live debates is nobody's coming in with the intent to make it toxic. All right. We've had a few trolls come in and do some silly stuff on the camera or play some silly stuff, but nothing to the point where it's going to make the environment for our live chats and our live debates toxic. Everybody's everybody's been respectable. Nobody's getting cussed out. That's what I appreciate most. So I want you guys to keep that up, because at the end of the day, we have to maintain some level of decorum within the chat. And then just as grown men, we can't really let it get out of control too much. That's not what we try to do here, because again, at the end of the day, it's just basketball. It's just sports. And that's what we're really trying to talk about. But you know, before we touch on anything else, we got a lot of topics to touch on today. Before we touch on anything else, man, we have to salute the Los Angeles Lakers. We have to. You know, this team has been extremely resilient all year. You know, along with the Miami Heat, they both have been resilient in their own ways. But this Los Angeles Lakers team's dealt with a more unique type of adversity. You know, being the number one seed in the Western Conference all year, they still weren't favored by many to come out the West. A lot of people had the LA Clippers favored. A lot of Clippers had Kawhi Leonard. They had him labeled as the best player in the league. LeBron James was coming off a year where he didn't make the playoffs. Anthony Davis was coming off a year where he didn't make the playoffs. You know, they were playing, you know, for the most part before the pandemic issues hit, they were playing pretty well, but nobody really had them pinged as a lock for the championship. Then we obviously had the pandemic issues. Everyone set out for about 3.5-4 months. We get things back going, but now we're in a bubble setting, so everything's completely different. And so this bubble setting changed everything for all teams, and now they have to come back and play in an unfamiliar setting. And you know, for the Lakers to do what they did in this particular setting, even going into this bubble setting, you guys have to understand nobody really seriously picked the Lakers to win it all other than Laker fans. Laker fans are the only ones that really held down the fort and had a lot of belief in this team. I'll even admit myself, I didn't even have the Lakers picked to win it all. You know, I didn't think that their bench was good enough. I didn't think Rondo would be able to sustain a high level of play throughout the playoffs. All of these guys proved me wrong, and I have to admit that. So right now, I'm just taking the time to give the Los Angeles Lakers a big round of applause, man, for pulling through, where it felt like the odds were stacked against them with regards to, you know, what the media was saying, what fans were saying, or just what we all thought as basketball players and the basketball aficionados. This is what we all thought. We didn't think the Lakers would be able to get to the finals and win it all because of the Clippers. And then just as things played out, as the Clippers fell apart and lost to Denver, as the Bucks fell apart and got put out by the Heat, then we started to see that there was this pathway paved, this perfect pathway paved that presented a very big opening for the Lakers to become champions this year. And again, that's no shade to them, because you can only play who's in front of you. But they took every challenge head on. You know, Jamal Murray and Jokic, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, Jimmy Butler, and that host of young talent. I mean, they went through the gauntlet. You know, you a lot of people you'd probably won't admit that they went through the gauntlet. But I just named a lot of great players. I named superstar Damian Lillard. I named 2 MVPs in Harden and Westbrook. 2 rising stars, Jokic and Murray. Jimmy Butler, who's in some people's eyes is now a superstar. And we're talking about a Miami Heat team with some of the most promising young guys in the league. And one of the best things about this Miami Heat team, and a coach told me this, he said, with the 4-month layover, these guys are no longer rookies. With the 4-month layover, these guys are no longer rookies. You can't really say that they're rookies. They almost had a summer. They had a summer's worth of time to sit out, heal up, work out, get their games right, get readjusted, watch video, and then come back into the bubble setting. And it was all still counted as the same season. Those young guys really were second-year players going into the bubble. They played almost 50 games of a regular season. The season paused. They come back into a bubble. Now, when you have that time to sit back and watch footage and reanalyze your game, you're going to get better. And I think that's why we saw the reemergence of guys like Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson. So, again, salute to the Miami Heat for again, making a run that nobody saw coming. You know, they put out some really tough teams, a tough Indiana Pacer team, a number 1 seeded Buck team led by the MVP and Defensive Player of the Year. They beat a Boston Celtics team that's been in the conference finals 3 of the last 4 years. I mean, again, in their own right, the Miami Heat went through a gauntlet themselves. So we got to applaud both teams, but we definitely want to give and show our appreciation to the Los Angeles Lakers for winning the 2019-20 NBA championship. LeBron James comes away with another Finals MVP and another great performance to close out this team. And you know, we hear so much negative about LeBron, and I'm a big proponent of this. We hear so much negative about LeBron James. You know, how he's done it, how he's switched teams, how, you know, people say he's put super teams together. But at the end of the day, man, with all of the criticism that he's faced, with all of the star teams that he's faced, you can't do nothing but applaud this man's game on and off the court. So, again, right here, FYF Sports, man, we just want to give our salute to the Los Angeles Lakers. But while we're on that note right here, you know, before, you know, because, again, what we're going to do is I really want to touch on Laker free agency going into the 2021 season. But before we get into that, man, I just want to do a wellness check. I want to do a real quick wellness check on some of the guys. I want to do a wellness check on some of the guys who I know won't be doing so well mentally after seeing LeBron James win this championship. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump over to this live chat with these guys. We're just going to listen in. I just want to make sure that mentally they doing okay over there, because I know a lot of these guys didn't want to see LeBron James win his 4th NBA championship and 4th Finals MVP. And at the end of the day, it's just all basketball. It's all love. And we need to make sure that these guys are not falling off, you know, going crazy over there, losing their minds. And maybe, you know, maybe seeing LeBron James win this 4th championship, it may have humbled some of them a bit and put some sense into their head. So let's go ahead. We're going to slide over there real quick. We're going to check in and make sure James and those guys over there are mentally doing okay after seeing LeBron James shatter all of their dreams and get closer to chasing that GOAT status. Let's get over there. All right, so we just gonna, like I said, we just gonna do a quick wellness check. I really want to tune in and chime in and make sure these guys is doing okay. I know Hitman X spoke on his channel. Make sure you guys go subscribe to Hitman X, by the way. He plays some great content over there. Great NBA analysis. Hitman X. Make sure you go subscribe to his channel. But he did say on his channel it might be a funeral service over here today. So we just going to tune in. It's going on live right now. We're going to tune in, you know. And I just want to pick up to what these guys are saying and what they're talking about. You know, like I said, we're just going to get to it. I think it's James and a lot of these guys in the chat. And hopefully they've come to their senses a bit, and maybe LeBron James has humbled them to some degree.
I'm gonna stay just on Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, stay on that nigga. Yeah, stay on that nigga. Talk about it.
All right. When Jimmy Butler played this series,
okay,
and he ran through this playoffs,
okay,
LeBron wish he could have a record by himself like that. Let's start right there.
No,
Let's start right there first.
No, he don't.
Let's start right there first. Because you know why? The nigga ain't was make the playoffs his first 2 years. Then you know why? When he did get there by himself, the nigga did the same thing like Ticket say. That's why I can't even argue with you, LeBron fans.
It's a 4-time NBA champion, 4-time Finals MVP, 4-time League MVP. He's the all-time great. He's not Jimmy Butler.
Man, this nigga a fucking role player. He needed AD.
That don't sound like a role player to me. That don't sound like a role player to me.
Hold up, y'all be quiet. Cause I'm tired of cooking niggas because he got that one ring. He's still under 500. Where he was last year by himself? LeBron James last year by. Let's just do last year comparison. I seen Jimmy take a team to the finals. Why that bitch ain't get there?
James is a 4-time champion. LeBron James is a 4-time.
Why the fuck he ain't get that, bitch? I don't want to hear about this West End rank. The fucking weedy box ass rank. All y'all got one in the weedy box, I heard.
4-time
They
NBA
got plastic ones. They got brown. They got silver.
4-time.
Hey, well, like I said, we just wanted to tune in and chime in to see what they were, you know. I feel like CJ, we all know CJ, you know, he's a little, he's younger. He has a little bit more youth, you know, he's more so of a LeBron fan, but he has some great NBA takes as well. I see he's over there trying to hold it down. It's crazy when you have the younger guys trying to humble and give knowledge to the older guys. It's the older guys that's just speaking nonsensical right now. LeBron James, he just has to spit off 4-time champion, 4-time MVP. And the older guys, we still calling him a role player. Like, where do we get this narrative from? So, CJ, I see you over there holding it down, man. Keep grinding. Again, I know you know, if you stay over there too long, you might get gray hairs by the time you're 25. All right, I understand that. But like I say, I see you over there fighting that fight. We over here at FYF holding it down. When you done over there giving out lessons, you know, because again, you see the shirt, man. Y'all see the shirt. This is what CJ's over there doing. It's just for research purposes only, man. I mean, we study, we research the game. CJ has done his research on LeBron James. He's over there teaching those guys, man. LB, Ticket, James, man. He's handing out lessons on LeBron James. LeBron James just won his championship. CJ's been telling us all along and we didn't listen. CJ and Elder have held it down. They've been telling us all along what was gonna happen. And again, I jumped on the train early. I saw the writing on the wall after the Portland series. All right, a lot of people still turned into Houston Rockets fans. A lot of people still turned into Denver Nuggets fans. A lot of people all of a sudden turned into Jimmy Butler fans. And the Lakers proved us wrong every single time. So I got to give credit to CJ for holding down, being a true Laker fan. All right. I give it to Elder, man, for holding it down, being a real Laker fan. And again, it's not the bias. All they're fans of the team. Both of those guys came with some very valid arguments as to why the Lakers win the championship this year. And again, we heard Elder say it over and over and over and over. You know, and if you guys don't know Elder, make sure you check his channel out as well. It's going to be in the description of the video. But, you know, he told us, he says it's their defense that's going to win it. And what did we see in that last game? What did we see in game 6? We saw one of the greatest NBA Finals defensive performances ever to close out a series. That's not debatable. We saw one of the greatest defensive performances to close out a series ever. Like, and these are the performances, these are the type of things that we can't waste time hating on LeBron James and miss over, like we're glossing over a historic performance put on by the Los Angeles Lakers. That was a historically great defensive performance. We talk about there's no defense in this league. And going into the third quarter, I saw the Miami Heat only have 39 points. We say that there's no defense in this league, but we see what great defense can do when a great team decides to lock in. And the Lakers, you know, after bungling game 5, you know, a lot of teams would have fell apart and collapsed. You know, we saw the Golden State Warriors. Give away a 3-1 lead in the NBA Finals. When you start to collapse, things can just fall apart. We saw that happen in the NBA Finals to one of the greatest teams in NBA history. All right. This Laker team was up 3-1. lost a tough game 5 could have been in that same situation if they gave up a game 6. They came out in that game 6 and they left no room for error. They left no room for error. A lot of people say that LeBron James stayed in the game late to stat pad. No, you know what? In a closeout game, last game of the season, yes, I'm leaving my starters in until I know the game is sealed for certain. That's what I'm doing. In a championship game, this is not a regular season game. This is not a preseason game. This is not game 1 of the first round of the playoffs. This is for the championship. I don't care if I'm up 40. I'm going out with my starters on that court to make sure we seal the deal. And that's a great move by Vogel. I think any coach would have done it. You leave no room to doubt. And you know what? I'm going to tell my guys, if we're up 30, go out there and stat pad. Go out there and fill the stat sheet up because I want you to pour it on until these guys wave the white flag. And we know Miami is not a team to wave the white flag. They're going to go out on their shield. They've shown that all year. They're going to go out on their shield. And again, the only way you leave no room for error, especially after Jimmy Butler came out and guaranteed a win in game 6, you have to leave the guys in. You have to leave everybody in. You have to pound them into submission. And that's what the Lakers did again. I've seen a lot of finals games. I've researched that, and I want anybody to contest. Even when we talk about some of the great Pistons teams, that game right there was one of the best defensive performances that I've ever seen in the NBA Finals. Better than some of the Bulls teams, better than those great Piston teams that played defense in the early 2000s. It's going to be hard for you to find a performance like that, especially in a game 6 to close the team out. Sometimes you just have to take your hat off and shake their hand and say, you know what, you just got to say, you know what, you earned this one. You got this one. I might not like you as a player. For some people, I might not like you as a person. But at the end of the day, man, you got to tip your hat to LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers, man. People were saying that he couldn't, going into this year, there were a lot of people saying that he would never win another NBA championship. The man didn't just win another NBA championship. He won another NBA championship and won another Finals MVP. And looks healthy enough to do the same thing next year. We don't know, and that's what we're getting into next. We're gonna going into the next portion of this show. We're gonna talk about the 2021 Los Angeles Laker free agency. That's what we want to break down today. The 2021 Los Angeles Laker free agency. Because again, going into next year, they have the potential to reload and get ready for next year. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to transition into what their roster is going to look like next year and what they can do to revamp this roster, get reloaded. Who can they bring back? Who can they possibly re-sign in free agency to make this happen? So let's go ahead and transition over into that portion of the show. Now we're just going to discuss this Laker free agency going into the 2020 and 2021 season for the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, I'm not going to act like they have a perfectly constructed roster as is. They do have free agents. All right, they do have some questions to answer. All right, but the first thing we got to do, if we're the Lakers right now, is we have to evaluate who are my best players. What players do I need to keep to get the most out of LeBron James and Anthony Davis? And so, again, to get the most out of LeBron James and AD at the stages in their career, you got to surround them with shooting. And so far, their best shooters on the team have been Rajon Rondo at 41.5%. And again, I don't know if Rondo can duplicate that 41.5% three-point shooting again, but if he can, he's a player that you have to keep around. You have to keep this guy around. And again, whenever they needed a big performance out of a guy coming off the bench, Rondo was always there to help lead the bench and bring that big performance. You got KCP. Now, KCP has been up and down. He's been up and down, but again, just like Rondo, when it matters most, when they need him to show up, this guy, especially in that game 6, can lock in defensively and offensively. He's shooting 38.5% from the three-point line. We have LeBron James. Obviously, he's shooting 35%. That's about his career average. Morris shot 44% from the three-point line. That's really big That's really big. And then Anthony Davis shot 39% from the 3-point line, 39.6. So Anthony Davis, so this is going to be your best shooting lineup for the Los Angeles Lakers. I would say focusing on keeping this core right here, and Morris is the only free agent, and Rondo, I think he might be a free agent. This is the core that I would say I want to make sure I hold on to these 5 guys at all costs. But what Markieff Morris does is he allows AD to play at center without sacrificing height on the court. This would essentially be the Los Angeles Lakers' so-called small ball lineup, but it's not small. It's actually a bigger lineup that can shoot the ball extremely well. So when we say small ball lineup, normally in this era, it doesn't necessarily mean small. It normally pertains to shooters. And with this lineup right here, they can dominate with size and shooting. I think is one of the most effective lineups, especially when you can put LeBron James off ball. You have Rondo as the main playmaker. Again, this lineup was unstoppable in the playoffs whenever they had these 5 guys on the court and they were locked in defensively. I really want to know your comments on that as well. I really want to know what you guys have to think about this particular lineup. Some people might want to insert Caruso in there. Some guys might want to insert Dwight Howard in there. But in my opinion, these are the guys that you have to keep for the Los Angeles Lakers going into the future, or at least the short-term future over the next couple of years. Morris might be pretty hard to keep. I don't know if his contract or how that's going to get negotiated out. But hopefully they can find a way to keep him on that court, because at almost 45% three-point shooting, that's something you can't just let walk out your locker room. So when we talk about a player that you want to bring in, now what we talked about was free agents. We talked about free agents. What do they need? What holes do they have in their roster as currently constructed that it needs to get filled in? And I've built up a list right here of just some qualifications that these guys need to have to to fill some of the holes that we saw this roster have. All right, and so right here, my qualification list is must play power forward or center. Okay, I think they need another legitimate big to come off that list. I think the weakness in this lineup, although Dwight Howard was great and JaVale McGee was great, it was hard to play them at certain times because of their inability to stretch the floor, and not just stretch the floor, but also defend further out from the rim. And that was one of the weaknesses. So I would say we need to fill that power forward to center position with a guy who has the capability of shooting threes above 35%. And then most important, they need to be able to afford them. All right. So a lot of people have been saying Jeremy Grant from the Denver Nuggets. Okay. Well, once it's all said and done, they're going to have to re-sign AD. Once it's all said and done, and if Rondo opts in, again, my estimate is they're only going to have about $12 million in cap space to sign somebody. That's not going to be enough to bring in a guy like Jeremy Grant. He's not going to take that little of money. Jeremy Grant is going to go for a bigger payday. Jeremy Grant's probably going to demand $15 to $18 million a year, easy. Especially when we see some of the salaries that some of these other guys are making. Like that'll be similar to what Gary Harris is making. He's going to demand at least $15 to $18 million. So a lot of people have been throwing the name Jeremy Grant out there. That's not going to happen. They're not going to have the cap space. Realistically, they're not going to have the cap space to bring in a guy like that. So we got to knock that out of the equation right now. That's a pipe dream. It sounds good when you talk about it, but when you really sit down and crunch the numbers, that's not something that can happen. What I'm going to do is I'm going to present to you probably a more realistic list of what they can do going into the offseason. And again, when I break this list down, I want you guys to give me your input on it as well, because I think a lot of you guys are gonna conclude that my list is gonna be a bit underwhelming, and I accept that. So again, what we have right here is we have my projection on the salary cap. The NBA salary cap is at $109 million. That's what projections are going to be at. The Lakers are projected. Lakers projected 2021 payroll after re-signing Anthony Davis around $97 million. Again, that's going to give them about $12 million in available cap space. So with the Lakers having about $12 million in available cap space, The NBA's already reported the salary cap to remain roughly around 109 million next season. Well, we know we got guys like Alex Caruso at 2.7 million. We got Taylor Horton-Tucker 1.5. We don't know what Rondo's going to do. Again, we got some guys that might dig into that $12 million salary cap, depending on how they want to fill out their bench. So again, we got to be more realistic with what the Lakers can do going in the next season. We just have to be realistic about it. And if you're realistic about it, you'll see some of the issues that they have with their salary cap space. So we see that Anthony Davis is going to command about 35 million, James 39, Danny Green 15. He's going to opt in for that last year. Kyle Kuzma 3.5, Quinn Cook 3 million, Caruso 2.75, and Taylor Horton-Tucker 1.5. This is not including Markieff Morris. We know the Lakers are probably going to want to bring him back with the way he was able to help space the floor. So again, this is the reality of the Lakers situation. Again, it sounds great to bring some of these guys in, but because of the cap and because of the cap not getting increased, the cap would have increased if these pandemic issues had not happened. And that is what would have allowed the Los Angeles Lakers to possibly go get that third superstar or that third all-star player for this roster. But because the salary cap did not make that dramatic jump as we expected, they may have to settle. The Lakers they're going to have to settle for the reality of their situation, and we're about to touch on that as well. But I really want to speak to you guys about. I want to hear from you guys. Like, what do you think the Lakers should do? I'm about to tell you here in a second what I would do, but I really want to know, what do you guys think the Lakers should do with the available salary cap space that they have? And here's my number 5. Here's my number 5 on the list, y'all. Patrick Patterson. Again, this is not a flashy signing. This is not, it's not a big bang. It's not a Jeremy Grant. It's not a Kevin Love. But the reality of their situation is these are the types of players the Lakers are going to have to go after to fill out their roster. And again, remember my qualifications: power forward or center who can shoot above 35% from the three-point line. Even though he didn't play much with the Clippers, but we know what his strengths are. Consistent three-point shooting, has great length. He's fairly mobile for a big man. He can move, and I think he can play defense in that system. He's not a great defender or rim protector, but I think in a team system, he can be great. He can't create his own shot, but he can make the open three. With this particular team right here, the Lakers don't have a lot of guys that can create their own shot. This guy can be one of those guys that LeBron kicks the ball to in the corner, and you can rely on him to make that corner three. And we can just look at the highlights here. Again, this is all we would need him to do. This is all the Lakers would need him to do, is be able to hit that shot right here, especially from one of their bigs. This is what Dwight Howard, this is what JaVale McGee did not give them. And you see, when you have a center who can do that, how it spaces the floor, how much harder you are to defend. And again, he can also go inside as well. He's just one of those guys that you have to set up. And we're going to look at JaMychal Green. He's only 30 years old. His strengths as well: consistent three-point shooting. He's shooting at about 37% for his career. That's what they need. Great length. The Lakers need length. They love length, like Kyle Kuzma. He has a 7'2" wingspan. They can integrate him into that team defensive concept, and he's able to defend both wing players and bigs. This would be a great player to add based on your salary cap situation. He's a good defender. He's not necessarily a great defender, but that's all you need. You just need a good but not great defender. But with the cap space available, that's all you're going to be able to afford. And as we see right here, JaMychal Green has been very serviceable everywhere he's been in the NBA. Again, we were not looking for that all-star signing. That's not realistic. So if you're a Laker fan right here, you guys are just going to have to accept the harsh reality of your cap situation. Your cap situation is not going to allow for you to bring in a guy like Bradley Beal. You're not going to bring in a guy like Kevin Love or Blake Griffin to fill in that power forward position. The money just isn't available. And I would even think that even if the cap had went up, I don't know if they would have been able to afford one of those guys either way. But when we look at what JaMychal Green can do, pick and pop threes, the Lakers didn't have that with their bigs. They didn't have that with the bigs. The only big that could pick and pop would be Anthony Davis. And we saw that become a weakness, especially when they couldn't play Dwight Howard or JaVale McGee, like in the Houston series, and then also towards the end of the series with the Miami Heat. But JaMychal Green can be very valuable, as you can see here. He's a smart player. He's crafty. He knows how to get inside and play big. He knows how to go to the outside and make the pick and pop shot. Next up, we got Boogie Cousins, 30 years old. We know he's coming off injuries, y'all. That's the downside. But he knows how to play with AD. So he's played with AD before. He's a good three-point shooter. He's gotten better over his career, 34%. So we know he can shoot it. Great rebounder and an underrated playmaker. His estimated contract, we say veterans minimum. The Lakers can afford that. He's decent rim protection, but he's definitely an average defender outside of that. Not sure how well he's going to recover from both a torn Achilles and a torn ACL. That would be one of my biggest red flags. But we've been hearing whispers out of the Laker camp that they do potentially want Boogie Cousins back. And if you can get this guy at a veterans minimum, we know this guy is working to get in optimal shape. Again, I think this would be the best situation, not just for Boogie, but it would be the best situation for the Lakers as well. I don't see Boogie going anywhere playing major minutes. I just don't. I've heard other people make claims that Boogie Cousins might end up in Washington as the starter there. I just don't see that happening when I know the Washington Wizards already have a promising young big in Thomas Bryant. Next up is Aaron Baines. Aaron Baines for the Phoenix Suns. He actually played great for us this year. He's more so of a hard-nosed big. He's a really good defender. He started to make threes. And again, he's just now started to, but he's taking them and making them. So I like that. He's a really good rebounder. And his PR for rebounding shows for 36 minutes. But he isn't quick enough to switch on the wing players. He is a bit slow, but I think he could do a decent job if he had to. And he doesn't get injured a lot. He's gotten injured once, but again, for the most part, he's going to be available. But this guy Baines, man, he's shown what he can do with the Celtics. He's shown that he's willing to defend. He's tough. He plays with grit. He can make shots. He doesn't make a lot of bad decisions. And as you see right here, he's working on extending his range. That's the one thing I like about him. He knows that to be in this league, the way this league is played now, he has to be able to take and make those threes and just shoot them with confidence. That's really it right there. I don't care if you miss them. We know that nobody's going to go perfect from the three-point line, but your willingness to take them is defense. It makes the defense respect you. So I appreciate what he can bring to the court. I think this would probably be one of the better moves that they can make in the offseason. Now, a lot of teams are going to be going after a guy like this. So, again, is somebody going to overpay to get him? Are the Lakers going to have the salary cap to afford it to match any particular salary? If other teams decide to overpay him, I don't know. But one thing I do like is I like Aaron Baines. I think he would fit into this system well. His per 36, his PER is outstanding for a big. He has some of the best PER numbers in the league. I think he would just fit well. Again, AD plays, I don't know why, but AD just plays really well alongside another really good center. And if you have another really good center who can stretch the floor, that just makes it all the better for a guy like AD. But as you can see in these highlights, man, this man is trying to improve his game. I'm curious to see how he recovers from injury. And then obviously their number one option would be to just re-sign what they already have, which is Markieff Morris. Bringing him in, he's a strong defender and rebounder. We saw that. Great three-point shooter, shot 44% in the playoffs. That's outstanding. Already fits with this team. We know that. His estimated contract is going to be mid-level exception, about $5 to $8 million a year. That's in that perfect range of money. So if you can keep something that you already have, that would be perfect. His weaknesses, he can be streaky. May want more money after a really good playoffs. That's something that the Lakers are going to have to worry about. Then that's something that's going to be big in this offseason. I think a few players are going to get overpaid. I think a guy like Montrezl Harrell is going to get overpaid. I think Fran VanVleet is going to get overpaid. And that's mainly to put pressure on a lot of teams like Toronto, the Clippers, and then even in this situation to put pressure on LA. We know that a lot of these teams are salary cap struck. What that means is they're not trying to go too deep into that salary cap because because of roster restrictions. And the Lakers can have some really, really bad roster restrictions if they have to overpay for guys, especially overpay for guys who are not high level players. And I wouldn't consider Markieff Morris at this stage in his career a high level player. He's a great role player coming off your bench. You definitely need his ability to shoot. You need that to stretch the floor. You need his defense at times, especially when you want to go to that small ball lineup. But again, I just think that there are some guys. I really think that there are some guys like Serge Ibaka, Jeremy Grant, Marc Gasol. I think the price tag for those guys is just going to be so high that it's just not feasible for the Lakers to bring them in. And if the Lakers do bring them in, they'll definitely have to relinquish guys like Markieff Morris. They may have to, we don't know who they could give up. I think going into next year, one of the Lakers, I think their best option could potentially be to make a trade with Danny Green. I mean, if you can shake Danny Green's contract, a lot of teams might want that expiring contract, and you can bring in maybe and I would say with Danny Green's contract, you might be able to bring in a youthful player who struggled on another team that might thrive in this particular situation. I would look at a guy like Kevin Knox for the Knicks. He's long, he's lengthy, he's underperformed over in New York, but he has a lot of promise. If you bring in a guy like Kevin Knox, he has all of the assets, the extremely long wingspan, extremely quick, can shoot the ball, can drive, can do everything that you need. I think this is one of those guys that you could possibly snatch from a New York Knicks team, trying to clear up more salary cap space, because they're always going for that monster free agency player that's available. But again, these are just my options. Again, I just don't see the Lakers having the salary cap to do a lot this year. I'm really curious to see what you guys had to say about it. But, at the end of the day, like regardless of what they do, what they were able to pull off this season was great. I would love to see them reload and come back next year with more to do it again. They just have a lot of questions that they got to answer. So coming off this championship right here, I'm sure that Jeannie Buss and that team over there, they're going to get right to it. I know they're probably already looking to see who they can bring in, but they definitely got some numbers to crunch and some things to work out. They definitely have some things to work out. I think they can pull it off. Can they repeat next year? I don't know, man. With a lot of teams getting reloaded, it's going to be tough. But again, we doubted them this year. We definitely doubted them this year, and they came through in a big way. I'm not going to doubt them next year. Now, we saw the odds. We talked about the odds in our live chat yesterday. The odds have the Lakers repeating next year. They're the number one team. They also have the Bucks, the Clippers, and to round out that top three. I think the Celtics fall at around 6. I think they have Miami Heat up there as well. So, again, Vegas likes the Lakers to repeat next year. When you got LeBron James on your team, this guy's been – he lives in the NBA Finals. So it's almost as if you have LeBron James on your team. It's a lock to get to the finals. It's just a matter of if you can get it done when you can get there. But you guys, man, it's been another great episode, man. Another great episode. Again, this is just a wrap. My next episode that I'm gonna do, again, I'm gonna break down the Miami Heat. They were the runners up. We're gonna see what they have going into the off season. We're gonna see who they look to bring back, who they're gonna keep, what's their salary cap looking like. And I really, I think the Heat will have a little bit more flexibility to do some creative things with their roster this summer. So I really can't wait to really talk on that, because they could come back next year and look completely different, completely reloaded and ready to go next year with some new stars on that team. But hey, been another great episode. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Please, I appreciate all the support and all the live chats, all the live debates. Again, it's all about keeping it civil. We try to. If we start to allow it to get toxic, we're going to run people away, and we're going to run people away to actually really have good basketball insight. And that's what I don't want. I want all basketball minds here, whether you're younger, whether you're older, whether you're just a fan, whether you're a savant, whether you're a statistician. I don't care what you do, man. You're all welcome here over at FYF Sports, man. We all students of the game. And that's what we do here. We just chop it up about that. Still working on another PS5 giveaway. All right, so we're gonna be working on that as well. As soon as I get the okay to go on that, we're gonna drop another giveaway. What I want to do is I might do something like a trivia or a Jeopardy type thing in the chat, man, just to kind of make it competitive in the chat, or to reward the people that are there in the chat that day. And maybe we might just give something away live along with some gift cards. But we're going to continue to do our best as we grow. We're going to continue to do our best to give back to you guys. It's not about just taking and getting the views and the engagement. You know what? We're going to do our best to give back. You guys make us who we are, and we appreciate it. But FYF Sports, like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to the video if you haven't done so already. If you're a musician, if you're an artist, if you're dropping music, if you got your SoundCloud in order, if you got your IG and all your social media in order, hit us up. Hit us up in our email. Our email's in the description of the video. Send us the links to your music. Send us everything. And you know what we can do is, since you're a subscriber, we'll just do a music review live. And then we'll do a music review live. You can read the comments and you can hear what everybody has to say about your music. You might be able to go back to the lab, fine tune it, make it better, or it may be perfect. But at the end of the day, we here just to help make everybody get better. Also, man, you see we got this wall right here. If you got businesses or anything, if you got anything you trying to promote or push, you need to hit us up in the email, man. Because again, y'all see our subscriber count growing. You know what? Let's not act like we don't see the channel growing. The channel is growing faster than ever. We're probably one of the fastest growing channels on YouTube right now. All right, that's because we're putting in the work. So don't ask to be a sponsor when we at 100 or 200,000 subscribers. It's going to cost too much. Become a permanent subscriber of the show. Get your business, get your business information posted on this wall right here. Whatever you're trying to promote or push. If you want to do any of that, now you want to jump on it right now. So if you're trying to push a music artist, your stock trading business, anything, your website, all right, your social media. If you want any of that promoted out here, if you're a model, I don't care what you are, if you want to promote it, all right, you need to hit us up, all right? We're going to hit you with the sponsorship offer. We're going to get your sponsorship set up, all right? And we're going to get your information on this wall right here, all right? Because the engagement for this channel is crazy, all right? The website's going crazy, doing big numbers, almost 50,000 views a day. We just set a record over the last couple of days with views on the channel. So again, man, you don't want to miss out on it. You don't want to miss out on it now. I'm giving you guys the opportunity while it's cheap. So when we get to 1 million subscribers, I don't want you guys asking me why I'm charging $10,000 for a sponsorship. When we get there, so I'm giving you an opportunity to get it for the low right now. But you got to hit us up in the email for them opportunities. We have one guy hit us up. We're going to be doing a music review for a young artist pretty soon here over the next couple of days. They hit us up, all right? We're going to drop that music review for him, and we're going to try to get him some exposure, some push. And again, that's just for being a subscriber to the channel. It helps give us content. You can push your stuff. And again, the basketball's over with right now. Everything we do doesn't have to be about sports. We can talk about everything. Now it's open season on everything and everybody right now. So let's just get ready to make that transition. Prepare for the NBA draft. Next live chat, that's what we're going to be chopping it up about. And we'll see you then. But hey, FYF Sports, man, another great episode. And I'm out.